What's up everyone? So it's a pretty busy couple of weeks. We're not doing a whole lot right now. When I made the last video we thought the baby would be here by now, but we've been in since and they keep changing their mind, so we essentially don't know. They've told us a date that we know that we're not sharing, because they've given us several dates that they keep changing their mind on. And who knows, could be any time. So the only things that have really happened, we're not really going out and doing stuff, so there's not much to vlog. But I thought I'd record this to catch up a bit on where my treatment's up to and that sort of thing. So I was really hoping that they'd let me film the CT and mask fit in, but they wouldn't let me. They didn't even let me take a picture. So we spent hours and hours in the Women and Children's Hospital in the morning, being fannied around and lots of tests and being told one thing and then being told another, as I sort of said a minute ago. They seem to get it now though. They're putting us in a separate room, and they're allowing me to wait there basically in the dark. I've also got these now, sort of blue tint glasses, which really help. Hoping to go and get a proper eye test at some point over the next week or so and get some proper glasses though. These are just cheap bendy things off of Amazon. Yeah, look like they could fall apart any minute really. But I've tried a few different ones. So there's the normal blue light blocking glasses which are actually clear. Some yellow ones I've tried, and then there's these, and I've actually got some more coming as well that are pink. But I've since ordering all those found out you can just go and get your eyes tested for this sort of thing, and they'll tell you what you need and do a proper prescription for it and everything. So I'm just going to do that. So yeah, that's a step in the right direction on the maternity side of things, at least where this is all concerned. Hopefully that continues. There seems to be a note on their system now. Whenever we turn up they seem to know who we are and everything, but it is a bit hit and miss. There's some people who know and other people who haven't got a clue, so we'll see what happens there. As I say, we've been given a date, but we could very well get to our next appointment, which is they're almost every other day at the moment because it's getting towards the end now. And we're getting to a point where we could rock up and be told, right, you're not leaving now without baby, or we could be fobbed off for another couple of weeks. We just don't know really. It's all a bit up in the air. But because of all of that, as I say, we're not really going anywhere or doing anything. So I've been building this, so I've come on a bit. So Carl, my brother, sent me this, which is a Christmas present ahead of time, and the idea was send it me now and I can potentially build it before the baby comes. So I've started building it. I'm going to have another go at it now. It's taken multiple sittings, but I haven't really struggled with it. I built that little, I don't know, sort of Lego mask, not Lego, the fake Lego mascot thing when I first got out of surgery and really struggled. It took me hours and hours to build, and I've been able to do this much easier and follow the instructions and everything, and comparing it to building the baby furniture. At no point when I've been building this have I looked at an instruction and worried about, oh hang on, I don't think I've understood that. Like, I've understood all of it and I've built it all. And the only thing I did do, which was a bit annoying, is this sort of type of Lego doesn't come with one of these undo thingies, and there was one bit where I'd put two bits together and I'd put them together misaligned, and it took me about half an hour to remember that I had one of those upstairs. And then I could fix it. So that was all fun and games. So yeah, I'm hoping to get this finished today, and we'll see. But yeah, see how we get on. The treatment, brain tumour side of things, the only thing that's progressed since my last video is on Thursday I had the CT and the mask making, which, as I said, they wouldn't let me record in any way. They wouldn't even let me take a picture after it was made. It wasn't, well, to be fair, it wasn't that they wouldn't let me, it's that by the time I'd gone to get my stuff from the corner and turned around, it was gone. They'd already whisked it off, because they were running behind, and so they were trying to be as fast as possible and basically kick me out so that they could get the next person in. But I can try and describe it at the very least. So it is pretty much as I thought and as I'd researched. So it's essentially a sort of net piece of plastic, with lots of holes in, that they put in a water bath, hot water bath for a few minutes, and then once it's pliant, they drape it over your face. So it kind of came up to here, just underneath my chin, and they tucked it under to make sure that there's an edge for them to butt my chin against once it's dry, which I'll get to. It draped right over the top of my head, and then it was clamped down into a sort of frame that clamps then onto the table. It goes kind of all round here. And so then they were, while it was drying, they were kind of prodding around my nose and into my eye sockets and around here, and making sure that my ears were comfortable and stuff like that. And then when that was done, so that was done in one room. So the reason everything was going so slow and the reason they were in such a rush at the end is there's 2 scanners and one of them was broken. So they made my mask in the room with the scanner that was broken. It has to be done on the scanning table because of the clamps. It has to be done in place, and normally you would just have it made and they would take it off you temporarily, just so once it's cooled enough. So it was only on for it didn't feel like that long to me, but I think it was about 10 or 15 minutes. It was actually longer than it felt. It was a really odd feeling. So it's essentially a soggy sheet that they're draping over your face. Kind of felt like what I imagine it feels like to be waterboarded, so it wasn't particularly pleasant. But I could breathe, which when you're being waterboarded you can't. So not suggesting it was anywhere near as bad as that, but that's probably the closest thing I can describe it as. It's like a damp cloth being draped over your face, except it was made of plastic. As it was going hard, I could kind of feel it shrinking onto my face. It was really odd. So yeah, probably was there longer than it felt. It only felt like a few minutes, but I was just trying to keep my eyes shut and breathe and not panic, basically, because it's quite a claustrophobic thing to have on you. So once that bit was done and it had dried enough, the radiographer took it off and kind of gave it one last dry. I think she passed it underneath something kind of like a UV light thing. It looked a bit like the things that you see at nail bars, where you put your hands in the thing and it dries the acrylic or whatever it is. So she basically just passed it underneath that with her hand, kind of waved it. And then they moved me through to the next room, and by the time I got there, the mask was there. So then, they essentially strapped me to the table, so put me down, put the mask back on, which by this point had shrunken even more, so it was much tighter again. And by the time then they'd strapped me all down, they whizzed me through the machine, which was dead fast. It felt like it was no more than a minute, 30 seconds to a minute or something. A quick CT scan with my head in the position in the mask, so that the radio team and the oncologist can plan exactly where the tumour is relative to the scanner. And I suppose they probably put that information together with what's on the MRI to figure out what direction and how strong and everything the radio beams are going to be when I actually go for the radiotherapy, which we are, where are we now? Sunday the 20th. So that's a couple of weeks off. So Monday the 28th, Monday the 5th. So we're no, Monday the 21st, Monday 28th, Monday the 5th. So yeah, 2 weeks tomorrow I start, and every day for 33 weekdays, and then with the exception of Christmas Eve, which is a Saturday, and then Christmas Day, Boxing Day off. There's also a 3-day gap over New Year, because the New Year bank holiday on the Monday, I won't be in for that. So I'll be in every weekday between the 5th of December and the 19th of January.
Please could you take the green bin out before I forget?
Oh, that's not gone very well, is it? So just explain. So yeah, so Emma walkie-talkied me there on my watch, so just cut that bit out. The next step of everything, we have got an appointment with the oncologist, I suppose, to sort of final appointment before the radiotherapy starts, which is I think the Friday before that Monday, 1st of December. I think that's the Friday. Yeah, it is. No, Thursday. And then we'll see what happens from there. I'm just checking if there's any other appointments that I can tell you about. Not really. So yeah, I'm going to have a go at this now and see how I get on. Hopefully I'll finish it off, and if I do get it finished, I'll jump back on and show you the finished article, I think, because it's definitely come on some way since those little things that I tried to build a few weeks ago. So, just waiting for my dad to take me to Castle Hill. Going for a psychological assessment today. I've already done the first bit over the phone, which was all just, how I feel and symptoms and stuff like that. But I think this is actual paper tests or physical tests, all to get a baseline before I start the radiotherapy, in case it sends me doolally, I guess. Hopefully it won't. Also managed to get an eye test booked, a proper one. So these Amazon cheap things won't last long until they just need to last until I get my real glasses, whatever they're going to be. They'll also tell me what the appropriate colour is, because the blue helps, but the yellow did also sort of help, and there's pink ones on the way, which they might also help, but hopefully Specsavers will just tell me what the proper colour that I should have is, and also make sure I don't need a prescription, because if I do need a prescription, that could be causing part of the problem. We shall see. But yeah, good timing with that. Dad has turned up. So I just finished a bit of stretching. I thought I'd explain, while I do my squat hold, what I did today on my psych assessment. So the assessment today was basically just to form a baseline for doing it again after the radiotherapy to see if anything's got worse, or better, I suppose. So the main part of the assessment, I think, was to do with memory and recall. There was also stuff to do with comprehension. So there was a lot of pattern recognition, reading out words. In fact, at one point he just gave me a big long list of words to read out loud and try and pronounce correctly, some of which I'd never even heard of, and a lot of them I only know because of my physics degree. So God knows how somebody who hasn't done a physics degree would know about them. But yeah, I think some of them were weird foods and things like that, and you basically have to be a chef to know what they were or whatever. One of them was that he read me a story about 2 lions that had escaped, and with lots of detail about what they did and who caught them and how they were eventually recaptured, where it was, when it was, all that sort of stuff. and we revisited that a couple of times, and redid the story. What else was there? Oh, there was like a list of numbers at one point where I had to, in a row of 5 numbers, there was loads of rows. I had to cross out the second biggest number, which is harder than it sounds when you're trying to do it quickly. There was loads of word association stuff, so like, he would read out, say, apple and orange, and then I would say fruit, or shirt and coat, and I would say clothes, or similar. And there was loads of those, even to the point where by the end he was saying things like war and peace. I'm like, well, they're like the opposite. Can't remember what I said for that now, but I had to kind of say what was similar. There was also one part where he asked me to just define things, and he would give me some really weird things to define. So yeah, he's gonna go away and score all that up, and I'll get sent a copy of the report for however I did, and we'll see what that means really. I suppose what that says will determine whether I'm kind of in a fit state to work or not, I suppose, afterwards, assuming I don't deteriorate. I think to be honest, I'm probably alright. I'd be okay to work now, but the issue I've got is that I do mess things up, and so when I'm making these videos I can cock it up as many times as I want and just delete it and start again, whereas if it was something that needed to be done by end of business today, I haven't got the opportunity to do that. I just have to get it done, and I can't really do that. I can't promise that I can have things done by a certain point at this point. I can get things done, but not to a time limit. So yeah, it's while I was doing that as well, Emma was in another appointment checking up on things with the baby. Everything's okay. We're still operating on our previous plan, but that could all change. We've got another appointment in a couple of days, and we'll see what they say. So yeah, I'm going to get out this light because I'm having one of my weird focal things where I feel like I'm dribbling. My fingers are going as well, so I'm going to stop. What's up everyone? So I realised today while I was walking the dog that it's been 100 days today since my diagnosis, so I thought it'd be a good time to basically recap everything that's happened up to this point over the last 100 days. So it was actually 101 days ago today that I had the seizure. So August 13th I had the seizure. We were supposed to be going to see Kevin Bridges. We've been a fairly normal day. My brother and sister-in-law had popped in, and then they'd gone, and they were going off to my mum and dad's, and then we were just pottering around really. I'd gone the loo, and next thing I knew I was waking up with paramedics around me, and Emma had to phone up my dad and my brother, thinking that they might have to pick me up because she couldn't pick me up on her own. So we went in, we spent hours in A&E. Luckily Emma managed to fast track me through, who and all that sort of stuff, having worked there. It's a good job she did, because otherwise I might still be waiting now even for clinic appointments. But yeah, it's all happened rather quickly. So I was admitted. So during the stay in A&E, I had a CT scan of my head which showed a shadowy area, which at the time they thought was blood clots. They admitted me to the neuro ward for follow-up. Following morning I had an MRI, quite a quick MRI, and later on that day then we were me, Emma, my mum and dad happened to be there at the time, were all taken through to the seminar room by my surgeon, or it turned out to be my surgeon, didn't know that at the time. Yeah, so Raj walked us through it, explained that I've got a tumour. At the time we didn't know what kind of tumour, just that it was big. And not very well defined. His recommendation straight away at the time was to have surgery to debulk it, and then also excise some of it to send off for histological, that's not even the right word, get some histology done on it so that they could tell what kind it was and what biomarkers there were, which would help further treatment. So we'll come back to that in a bit. So August 14th, the day I was diagnosed with my brain tumour, so it's 100 days today since that. So as you can imagine, a bit of time passed then where not really anything happened. So there was a period of about a month went by when there was not much happened. I did end up having a second seizure about a week before my surgery. That one I was awake for. That was horrible, and I knew it was coming as well. I had long enough to, we were on the sofa watching TV, and I had long enough to put my phone down and turn to Emma and tap her and say I'm going to have a seizure, which was a bit odd. So on September the 19th, I had my pre-op bloods, and the following day, on the 20th, we went to the hospital, and my physiotherapist that was in the surgery, Sally, she went through the whole procedure and explained kind of how it goes down, the order of events and what she'll be asking me to do and all that sort of stuff, which was all stuff like, do things like this with your hand, touch your nose, she'd hold out her hand and say touch my thumb or touch my palm or touch whichever finger or whatever it was. She would also check my power by, asking me to squeeze her fingers, or she'd pinch my fingers, and she'd then pull against it to try and see if I could resist that. She was also asking me to do things with my face, so puff your cheeks out, run your tongue over your teeth, push your tongue against your cheeks, stuff like that. There was lots of different things that she asked me to do. So yeah, that was where she explained what all that was going to be. Prior to that, we also thought that there might be speech therapists and behavioural therapists in the room based on the information we've been given, but didn't need any of that in the end. It turns out where it is mostly over my motor centre, so I didn't need anything to do with speech. So speech is controlled by an area called Broca's area, which is further forward than where my tumour is. My tumour's, I don't know why I'm pointing on this side, it's not on that side, it's on this side. So it's far enough back that it didn't affect that. So after I'd had that meeting, then the next thing, so on September the 22nd, I was admitted into Ward 4, spent the night. I actually made the first video from this series that night on the ward. So if you haven't watched that, that's me sort of reflecting on my initial reaction to it and everything, and my opinion hasn't really changed that much between then and now, I don't think. I've come to terms with it a lot more. We know a lot more about the prognosis and, how long I've got and everything. At the time, I was kind of, made my peace and was sort of ready to die. Going with low expectations and hope for the best type attitude. But the things have changed a lot since then. We're as we get a lot closer towards the baby arriving, and there's other things to look forward to and things like that. It's not all doom and gloom, and it definitely could be worse. I'm still here, I'm still alive, so yeah, all good. So while I was in hospital, immediately post surgery, I had them quite worried, I think, because during the surgery, all the tests I described a minute ago, I reached a point where I couldn't control my pinch anymore, and I was losing control of the corner of my mouth. So when she would ask me to puff my cheeks out, she would want me to sort of do that and hold it, and I was going and losing it here and, you know, blowing out, and I couldn't keep my cheeks still where, you know, where they were stimulating with the probes while they were in there. So at that point they stopped, stitched me back up, you know, put the staples in and everything, which was probably the most painful part of the whole procedure. So I don't remember any of these staples going in. I only remember the last few that were down here, because I was kind of in and out of consciousness. I think, you know, I wasn't awake the whole time. I was kind of asleep for bits of it. It's all very odd. So the following morning, after a stay on Ward 40, which is like the high dependency area in Hull Royal, so after a stay overnight there, they took me down for an MRI the following day. We had to have 2 attempts at it actually, because as they were wheeling me downstairs the first time, I got hiccups. So obviously I can't be hiccuping while I'm in the machine. I misremember this bit. Emma tells me that it was actually quite quickly afterwards that they took me back down. I thought it was the next day, but it wasn't. It was quite quickly. So that MRI showed them, you know, what they'd managed to remove. And again, I did another video on this about, you know, my pre-op and post-op MRI, one versus the other. I'll put a picture up here if I can find them again. So I stayed in hospital then for 4 days. I was on the high dependency unit for 3 days, and then on the fourth day they allowed. So I was 4 nights I was staying in. So I was in there for 3 days, and then on the 4th day they let me go over from that side through to Ward 40, which is sort of a standard ward. Spent 1 night there, and then the following morning, you know, was able to go for a shower and, you know, kind of do normal things. So it was quite, you know, from the state I was in when I first came out of surgery compared to then, it was quite a change. So, you know, when I first came out of surgery, I could barely feed myself. You know, I had to eat, you know, only soft food with a teaspoon, with a big plastic bib down here, you know, whilst laying down. And by the time I was leaving, you know, 4 days later, I was, you know, up and about, taking myself for a shower, going up and downstairs. It was quite a surprising turnaround, really. This is just a few clips from hospital showing my progression from surgery to coming home.
It's Martin's new hat. He was complaining that his head was chilly. And he's got an absolute shiner. And he couldn't look more like a thug today if he tried.
Go on.
Going home.
Going home. What did you just say? You've got a...
Passed my little test.
You've passed your test.
Yeah, I had to draw a chair and talk about an alligator and do my 7 times table backwards, which I always did a rubbish job of.
What else?
I had to tap the table when she made a particular type of noise. Felt like, what's his name off Better Call Saul.
With the bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What are you looking forward to when you get home?
The dog.
Seeing the dog?
I see the dog and the cat.
Seeing the dog and the cat? Getting a hug off Daisy?
Yeah. Once we'd got home then on the 27th, there was not a lot happened for a few days, so, you know, I was just recovering at home, getting used to being at home and doing all homely things, or attempting to at least. The next sort of appointment after that was on the 30th to get the staples out, so that was 7 days after the surgery. So that was just at our local GP, which is just round the corner. Getting those out was so satisfying. It was they were by far the most painful thing, both during and after. You know, afterwards they were itching like mad, and they would catch in bed. So, you know, I'd roll over onto this side, and then try to go to turn back over onto this side, and they'd be caught on the fabric of the pillow, and be tugging. Then it was horrible, but having those out as well was very satisfying. It's quite a cringe-worthy video, but I'll put it in here as well if I remember to.
And then that was a stubborn one.
So then, again, not really much happened then for the week after that. And then on October the 6th, we went for my post-op appointment with Raj, the surgeon, who, we explained what the post-op MRI showed. And he, as it turned out, they'd managed to remove a section of it that was 50 millimeters by 32 millimeters by 20 millimeters, which I think is 50 that way, 32 this way, and 20 deep. A lot of what was on the MRI at that point still looked like swelling, so it was quite difficult to tell how much of the tumour they'd removed proportionally, as a percentage, but he was happy that he'd removed a decent amount of it, and had stopped at the right time. So by this point, he did a lot of those assessments that I described a minute ago, about squeeze my fingers and, try and resist him pulling against my pinch grip. By that point, I'd done quite a lot of rehab stuff at home. The physio team had given me tasks to do, like move individual grains of rice from one bowl to another, or they gave me some stuff called therapotty with particular exercises to rehab my pincer grip, which even now is still not fully there, but it's pretty much as it should be. I can do most things. I can use a computer. I can type. I can press buttons. The only thing that's still a bit off is textures. So if I rub my finger along something that's got a texture, I know that I'm not fully getting it compared to if I go my next finger along or the other hand. So it's definitely could be worse, but it's still something that needs to be rehabbed. I think it can be rehabbed. I've actually got an appointment next week with the physios to start looking at exercises for being able to get me to go back to the gym, because up to this point, both the oncologist and the surgeon, their attitude towards exercise is just don't do it for now. Just dismissed it outright as a don't risk it kind of thing. I'll come on to that in a bit though. So yeah, October 6th we had this appointment with Raj. He was very happy with everything. He then referred me at that point onto the oncologist to follow up and try and deal with the rest of what was left, because he wasn't able to remove all of it, as I said. He knew from day one he wasn't going to be able to remove all of it because of where it was. He knew he would reach a point during the surgery where during their probing and testing that they would affect something, so they knew they weren't going to get it all and it was going to stop at some point. So on October the 20th I went for my first oncology appointment, at which point we found out I was going to be put forward for radiotherapy and then chemotherapy after. I don't know if there'll be more rounds of radio or how many rounds of chemo. I think chemo comes in discrete blocks. We don't know much about the chemo at this point. We know I'm having it, but the radiotherapy hasn't started yet, and the idea is one step at a time and check progress as we go and all that sort of stuff. So from that point onwards, for the sort of 2 weeks following that until sort of the end of the first week of November, there was a bit of faffing around with the Max Fax department wanting to remove a wisdom tooth. So ages ago, way before any of this, my dentist put in a referral to have my wisdom tooth removed. Oh, actually, it's this one back here, so it's on this side. And they were desperate to get it done prior to the radiotherapy starting. I'm not sure why they were so desperate to get it done that early, but they were. So So there was a lot of faffing around and appointments to try and squeeze that in, and in the end it wasn't going to work out, so it just got pushed back indefinitely. And when the radio's done, I'll phone back and potentially get it done between the radiotherapy finishing and the chemotherapy starting, because while I'm on chemotherapy I can't have it done because it won't heal. Same thing for radiotherapy, I think. Actually, I don't think it's quite as severe with radio, because radio is much more targeted, but chemo, I just won't heal whilst I'm on chemo. If I cut myself or anything, I've got to be really careful. So, be interesting to see what happens when we find out more about that. The other thing that was going on during that time as well is, for over those couple of weeks, I had a few appointments at the fertility clinic, which, given that the baby we were about to have was an IVF pregnancy, was all a bit triggering going back there. The idea being to bank as much sperm as possible, because the likelihood is that the chemo will probably affect my fertility, and so with loads of with getting as much of it banked as possible just means that we've got the possibility there of growing the family further in the future if we want to, because we probably do want to, but we haven't really got that far yet. We haven't made any of those decisions. So yeah, that's all good. They've got plenty now. They did 3 visits and they've got loads, so that's all done. On the 11th of November then, at 11 o'clock, so bang on remembrance time, I was sliding into the MRI machine. The big long MRI, lasts about an hour with contrast. They do lots of different scans. Each scan lasts anywhere between 3 and 5 minutes, I think. And you can tell they're all different scans because they make loads of different noises. The noises are horrible. I'll see if I can find some of the noises. Play it here. They're really weird noises. I can't really describe them. Hopefully I can find some examples, play them here. The following week, on the 17th, I then went for a CT scan and the mask making, which they wouldn't let me film. So they drape a cloth. Basically it's thermoplastic, so they put this plastic in a hot bath, and then once it's finished they drape it over your face and clamp it down into the frame that fits onto the CT table, which is the same as the radiotherapy table, so it's got all the same screw holes and stuff. And then whilst this sheet of plastic then is drying and cooling down, it sort of shrinks onto your face. You press it into all your eye sockets and round your nose, and sort of for every indentation under your chin to make sure that it fits tight and that I can't move during the radiotherapy. And then the most recent thing that's happened is this Monday just gone, so November 21st, I had a pre-radiotherapy psych assessment. So I explained that earlier on in this video. I also explained the CT stuff in the previous video, I think, but I'll leave that in. And then the next thing that's due to happen, or the next steps from this point onwards, so we're 100 days today. So let's go into the calendar. So 2 weeks yesterday, I start the radiotherapy. The Friday prior to that, on the 2nd, so Thursday, on the 1st of December, I've got one more appointment with the oncologist, which I guess is going to be a final explanation of what she's planning to do in terms of what she's going to target and what her hopes are of being able to achieve during this course of radiotherapy. Now that all the scans are done, she's got the right information to be able to plan all that. And then on Friday afternoon, the physiotherapists are going to come and visit the house with view to giving me some exercises that they think are safe for me to start doing, with view to me going back to the gym, because I'm desperate to get back to the gym. It's the thing I've missed the most of all of this, you know, not having done anything physical. You know, I don't look particularly fit, but you know, it's so much. It's what I do for fun, and it's so much more important for my mental health more than anything else. You know, physical health, of course, it's important. I've gained quite a lot of weight since all this, which I did a post about today, which is where I realised that it's been 100 days, because I've got an app which counts you know, weight loss per day over a period, and I was looking for a good way of showing that over the sort of the last, or whatever, since the diagnosis. I was looking at showing how much weight I've gained, because I'm not really doing anything. You know, I can manage some fairly long walks. So just the other day I managed to do quite a big walk, 7.5k, which, you know, at one point all I was really able to do was do a couple of laps of the field near our house. But you know, it's come on. I'm definitely ready to start doing something a bit more physical, but I don't know what they're going to let me do. I don't imagine they're going to let me do anything particularly CNS taxing, so there'll be no big deadlifts or heavy lifts of any kind, I should think. But they might at least let me, you know, sit on the rowing machine for a while, or do a bit of gentle cardio, or, you know, we'll see what they're going to let me do. I don't really want to speculate, because I don't want to get my hopes up over what I may or may not be able to do. The view being, in the end, though, to get back to it fully and, you know, try and get better than I was prior to the diagnosis. I've also recently started the keto diet, not for weight loss, but off the back of a lot of evidence to suggest that it helps with seizures, you know, to reduce the risk of me having any more seizures. And also there's a anecdotal case of somebody with a different type of brain tumour who did strict keto for a year in his first year, and he swears by it, so I'm willing to give it a go. I have tried it before and failed miserably, but you know, motivation was different then. That was purely for weight loss, and there are other ways of losing weight. Whereas this time it's, you know, I'm trying to starve the tumour. So the idea behind it is that the tumour requires sugar to grow. It can't grow with anything else. Like the rest of your body has other ways of producing energy, which it can get round. But by stripping my diet of basically all carbohydrates, it starves the tumour and will complement, hopefully, the radiotherapy and the chemotherapy, and give me a better chance of lasting longer. So we'll see how we go on. Well, that's just about the roundup of the whole story up to this point. So yeah, the big news though in the coming weeks will be when the boy arrives. So the room's ready. We're in the room now. I'm in the big rocky chair. Room's still not quite finished. We've still got to put some stuff up on the walls. There's some shelves here that need putting up. A few other bits that need doing, but it's mostly ready to go. So yeah, we're just waiting for him to get here now. We know a date. We have got a date from the maternity side of things, but we're not sharing that because we've been told a date several times already, and then it turns out that every appointment we went to last week, they moved the date further and further back. So at one point Emma was taking steroids on the assumption that the baby would have been here Friday gone, and he'd already be here by now, but he's not. So he's still tucked away, having a nice time, keeping Emma awake at night, and giving her really bad acid reflux and all that sort of stuff, as you'd expect. But yeah, hopefully he'll be here soon. That'll be exciting. So yeah, all good. I'll probably do another one of these sort of all-encompassing roundups at another milestone. I don't know how long I'll wait, 6 months or maybe a year. We'll see. I'll probably just call back to this video at that point, and then pick up from this point onwards on what happens next, because it's all going to be interesting to see how it develops. You know, I don't really have any idea or expectation of how it's going to go, but we'll see. Cool. Right, before anybody asks, the baby is still in there, so you can all sod off. Do not text and ask. You're not getting any information.
Don't be so aggressive.
Well, do you want people texting you and asking for stuff?
I'm not gonna threaten them over a camera.
Oh, I am. You buggers. You sod off.